Welcome to Bass Talk with Hagen and Hayes. Today's Bite-Sized podcast is about teaching beginners. Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm doing well, David. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Tell me about teaching beginners.
Oh, I wouldn't know the first thing about it. No, I'm just kidding. So I actually teach a fair amount of beginners in a very probably different way than most people. At Berklee College of Music, where I teach, all of almost 98% of my students are electric bass players that
Right.
want to learn double bass. That's a lie. I have some that are already playing
Hmm.
the double bass, but need a little help. But I have a few that are singers or trumpet players or guitar players that want to learn double bass because everyone eventually realizes what a great instrument is.
It's the light eventually.
Yes, they do. They do. What's interesting about my situation is everybody, for the most part, can already read music. Many of them play electric bass, so they already know what the strings are, and so they already have,
Yeah.
a lot of the really rudimentary stuff that takes a lot of time to teach to a true beginner, and I joyfully get to skip that part very frequently, which means I can delve right into how to actually play the bass, and, for me, the most important thing is proper technique.
Mm.
Physically holding the bass the right way. I don't want anyone to get injured, so I try to just prevent that right from the get-go. Now, how about you? Because I have a feeling you don't get a lot of electric bass players coming through your door.
I don't actually, surprisingly. Uh, I started teaching beginners when I first started teaching. And then for a middle part of my teaching career, I rarely taught any. So when I first started, I just taught how I was taught. Um, but then you suddenly learn more. And the latter part of my career, I've taught quite a few beginners, and I absolutely love it. Because when you teach as an older teacher, you don't have to follow any of the rules anymore. And the nice thing nowadays is you can start them in fourth position. You can teach them harmonics. You can teach them effects. So, and also as a composer, it's been nice to write beginner music, but also include things like col legno or sul ponticello or Bartok pits or easy harmonics. So that the music is always interesting. There's always something to challenge the student. And it also means that by the time they join an orchestra, they know what col legno is or what sul ponticello is. Whereas the cellist won't know, I can guarantee that.
That's so
That's
true.
the nice thing.
Yeah. Did you know when you first started teaching, you were saying that you taught how you were taught, which is what I did too. And so I would pull out, Samandel's New Method,
Yeah,
book one, and you
yeah.
start at the beginning, which is like page 10. And
But also in the middle 1980s, there was really very little music
there
for
was.
beginners.
Yeah. And
We were lucky in Britain because of the mini bass.
right.
And suddenly people was started becoming interested in writing for beginners. So at least there was suddenly more repertoire available. But there haven't been. There hadn't been for a long time.
We had a couple books like A Tune a Day, and then along came a series called String Builder, and it was really meant to be used in the schools with the string orchestra. But you'd take it home and you'd learn the little pieces in there. And for us, we usually didn't have the melody because we were playing the string orchestra part. And
That's right.
it was just Dullsville. It was awful. But now, thanks to people like you, I mean, there's the beginner base, the 50 pieces, and I love teaching my students The Adventures of George, that first book that you wrote for your student, George. Immediately, they're learning the sound effects, they're learning harmonics, and I got an idea from Jason Heath a couple years ago. One of the first things I have, because I teach an elementary bass class for
Yes.
students who've never touched the instrument, I have them find that D harmonic on the G string
Mm.
with their fourth finger, and I have them find, the harmonic that is over the C with your first finger.
Mhm.
And before they've got quite enough strength to press down the string, they're playing open strings and some harmonics, and they can go
Mhm.
across the strings,
Yes.
and they're playing something, and it's much more exciting than trying to play that F major scale starting in half position on the E string on the first page of Samandel. So I'm grateful to you because you have opened up a whole new world of possibilities for beginners to feel my students are so joyful learning music right away.
That's nice. Well, the Adventures of George came about. I was teaching young George, and he was a complete beginner. He was a violinist, but new to the bass. And I think he'd only had about 3 or 4 lessons. And then we went into lockdown. So suddenly all the lessons were online. But he was a very quick learner. He was very, very bright young lad. And, in a lesson, I would say, George, can you try this effect? And he tried sul ponticello or glissando or something. And as we were talking, I found out what he was interested in, swimming and riding and running. And so I was able to write a piece for him with these effects. And so I'd write it in between the lessons and send it to him. And then a week later, he'd play it back to me. And that's how the thing evolved. And then because of you, thank goodness for you, is you asked me to write sort of a book two, which was a little bit higher, but also is still in bass step, but using the notes around the curve of the neck. So what
Call it
you
the danger zone.
you just said, that's it, yeah. And I've loved writing music for beginners
Yeah.
just because the bass is a different world these days. And there's nothing wrong with F major and B flat major because we will have to play them, but maybe it's not the best starting point.
It's a hard starting point. It
I
really
think
is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
And I today I've just completed The Wind in the Willows, which is a famous book by Kenneth Grahame, a book I read when I was at school. And it's just all in first position with a few easy harmonics in fourth position. And it includes Col Legno, Bartok Pits, Sul Ponticello. So again, the notes are really easy, just in first position, arco pizzicato. Um, but hopefully these introduce young players to new effects, but also make the music interesting.
It's really fun. And actually, I'm excited about The Wind in the Willows. I'm glad we're recording this today because my students don't know this yet. But on Monday, I'm going to have them sight read one of the movements and put it on their concert, which is the following week. But they're an advanced group, and I know that they'll be able to do this because it's not too far fetched. But I have to just close this out by saying I love teaching beginners because I can get in there before any bad habits have been formed. I
Right.
especially I especially love at Berkeley that my students already are musicians and they already can read music. It really personally, I don't know that I am the right person to have the patience to teach them those things.
Mm.
I can do it. I've done it, but at this point in my life, I want to let someone else do that part. So I feel really, really fortunate because of my job at Berkeley College of Music. I get to skip the real beginner parts of here are the strings, here's how to read music stuff. But I love to get in and be like, this is how to hold the bass, this is how to hold the bow, and let's start making music. But everyone has the specialty that they're drawn to, and thank God for that because then students have a teacher for every occasion. But
I enjoy it. My next project is the Bass Academy, which is for school age bass players and will include a mini bass project, offering free lessons for beginners. So that's the next thing. And I can't wait to start it. I really can't.
that's going to be a fun one. I can't wait to hear how it develops. We'll have to check in once that one gets rolling. Well, thank you everyone for listening to, I believe this is our 8th bite-sized podcast on season 3 of Bass Talk with Hagen and Hayes. And we look forward to bite-sized chatting with you again soon. Bye, everybody.
I